Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Julian Capogna, known as 99.6 The Howl on YouTube, has been making the hockey vlogs since 2016, covering his favorite NHL hockey team, the Arizona Coyotes, which after decades of poor ownership was graciously transferred here to Utah in an unprecedented move in April of 2024, when my new beloved NHL team was first known as Utah Hockey Club and is now titled the Utah Mammoth. What started as a throwaway project for Julian has grown into one of the most popular independent channels where Utah Mammoth fans come for game recaps, player analysis, prospect reports, and discussions on how the team is developing. Julian strives for consistency and accuracy when producing videos for Utah's newest major sports franchise. When he's not scouring the internet for upcoming draft picks or newly acquired players, Julian spends his time maintaining a healthy and fit lifestyle to give him the tools needed to combat the craziness of life. Recently married, congratulations, Julian represents the everyday man of balancing a full-time job, a passion project, managing his personal life, and discovering a healthy mindset. You can find Julian on YouTube at 996 The How. Julian Capogna, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you. Great introduction.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your content. It's one of my absolute favorite things to discover things that I didn't think I really cared about, and then learn about them and realize that there's interesting things there. And our podcast is mostly about, fitness and health, and we talk about diet and all kinds of different stuff. But for the listener, we're going to be talking hockey for the first 15, 20 minutes here, and we're going to be talking about my favorite team. And I hope that all the listeners are approaching this the way I approached watching, say, Drive to Survive on Netflix for the first time, where I didn't care anything about Formula One, and you start to see it and you get way into it. So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about hockey in particular, and Utah hockey. But I do want to talk to you about your own life. How did you get so into hockey itself, and in particular with the Arizona Coyotes franchise?
Well, first, I could already sense the enthusiasm and passion you have for hockey. Like, I could hear it in your voice, how excited you are to talk hockey. But this probably is the first time ever I'm going to talk about how I became an Arizona Coyotes fan. I've never talked about it on my channel. So you got the scoop, and congratulations
There
for
we
that.
go.
But
Heard it here first.
growing up in Canada, Toronto, I mean, you live and breathe hockey right out of the womb. Uh, all my family members, big hockey fans, dad getting me into hockey. He was a huge Leafs fan, but I hated the color blue, like from since I gained consciousness. So I always gravitate towards the color red. So Toronto and Detroit had a great rivalry in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I gravitated to Detroit, Steve Yzerman, my favorite player ever growing up.
Oh my goodness.
And then mid 2000s, like when there was talks about his retirement, they got eliminated by Calgary in 2004. Then I switched from Detroit to Calgary, where Jerome McGinley became one of my favorite players. Now his son is drafted by Utah. So I was a Calgary fan for just a little bit. There was a lockout shortly after the Flames lost in that Stanley Cup final to Tampa Bay. And then I stuck with him for like 2 or 3 years. And then 2010, I was working evening shifts. And so when I come home from work to watch playoffs, the Coyotes were playing. So they're the underdog. I love the underdog story. So 2010, they faced Detroit. So funnily enough, my first favorite team was playing the Coyotes. And we got swept the first in 2010, if I'm remembering this all correctly. And then the next year they faced Detroit again in the playoffs, lost in seven. And then in 2012, I mean, Coyotes make history, like beating Chicago in that first round, beating Nashville. Like I was all in on that playoff run. Then they unfortunately lose to LA, the Stanley Cup champions that year. And then another lockout. And then I'm like, I'm sticking with the Coyotes, which was probably the worst time to stick with them because I think that lockout just took the wind out of that team's sails. They didn't make the playoffs in that first year after the lockout, after their playoff run, and then like fought half a decade of darkness, if not more. And then they started to pick it up in 2019, and then pandemic happened, rebuild happened again. So and then they moved in April, which was a tough moment. They moved like a couple days before my birthday. I was planning a wedding around that time. And the day like it started getting real that they were moving, I was just about to walk into a movie theater to watch Civil War. And during that whole movie, in the back of my head, I'm like, they're moving. And so I couldn't really even enjoy the movie. And then a week later it was their last game on home ice. So yeah,
Wow.
I think I answered that.
Yeah, you did. That's great. Well, I didn't know that you weren't a fan from the very beginning. But for the listeners to kind of set this up, can you explain kind of backstory what was going on with that franchise? Like, obviously, I think most sports fans understand that there's periods of time when you have good teams, there's periods of times you have bad teams, and you kind of go through the cycles. The Utah Jazz are no stranger to that. We're like 5 years into a rebuild and like no light at the end of the tunnel. Nothing is coming anytime soon. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for a lot of the fans. But can you explain kind of the uniqueness of the situation that was going on in Arizona that eventually got them moved?
So like in 2012, they're on a high, like selling out, people coming to the buildings. They had the whiteout. Like when the Coyotes were winning, building was full. And yes, it was in Glendale, which is like 40 minutes on a good day, northwest of Phoenix. But if you get stuck in rush hour traffic, like it could be an hour, even more. Like when I traveled to Phoenix 4 times, like I knew to get the Uber like 2 hours before game time. So
Oh
when the
my
team's
goodness.
losing, do you really want to spend over an hour in traffic right after work to get blown out like 6-2? Probably not. But when the team was winning, the fan base was healthy. Like I said, the distance from the arena to the fan base, like all the season ticket holders, the corporate ticket holders, the majority of the fan base was Phoenix, Tempe, Scottsdale, so way east of Glendale. So they all had to travel. So we always knew you had to get a new arena. The NHL owned the Coyotes for a brief moment of time, trying to find new ownership groups. They found a new ownership group. They were based in Canada. I forget what they were called, Ice, something Ice. But the owners were from Canada. And that seemed like it was starting to be good. They hired a new GM, like this young kid who was touted as this whiz kid, and he took that aging 2012 veteran team and sort of changed them into a playoff bubble type of team. And then he got into trouble with telling prospects to show up to his interviews. Like we just had the draft combine last week in current times in Buffalo. Well, when this airs, will probably be 3 weeks to a month. But all the draft picks, top prospects go to visit teams, they work out, and you get to interview prospects. The GM for the Coyotes told them to come show up in shorts and t-shirts, which I guess is not allowed. And the NHL
Wow.
penalized the team like a first round pick. Like it
Wow.
was devastating. And then so that GM gets fired. They bring in Bill Armstrong in year 2020. And it was during COVID too. Bill Armstrong is like, I have no prospects, I have no draft picks, and he needs to rebuild. There was basically no scouting department, no analytics department. So Bill Armstrong had to rebuild the front office first. And then they had that COVID 2020 short season of 56 games. And then Bill Armstrong hit the rebuild button again, right when the team was coming out of its previous rebuild. But like I said, like their ceiling was a playoff bubble team, which I'm fine with. But Bill Armstrong was like, I got nothing here. If we want long term sustained success, we need to just pare it down to the studs and get all these draft picks back, build up our prospect pool, which he did. And then they moved the arena from Glendale to Tempe, where all the fans are, but it was a college arena, only 5,000 seats. And the reason for that was the previous owner, which I don't even want to say his name, promised they would win a political vote in Tempe to build on some land. And in 2023, we all thought the vote was unanimous yes. Like all the signs were pointing yes for sure. Like this would be such a boon for the city of Tempe. And then the vote went no. And that was the moment I thought the Coyotes would leave. And they didn't. They got another year of life. They try to scour this other piece of land in North Phoenix. They fumbled it hard. Just every turn, the ownership fumbled it for that North Phoenix land. And the NHL was desperate. They did not want to leave Arizona. Like they were so desperate. They owned the team. They were so desperate. They gave it to this owner who, now it turns out he's a terrible owner, pretty much a snake oil salesman. And so it was their last ditch effort. And then Utah was already primed. They got the arena, and Ryan Smith purchased the team. And what I like about Smith is he immediately said, this Salt Lake City arena, Delta Center, like you mentioned, like there's obstructed views. You can't those obstructed view seats, they sell for really cheap, like $10. And so they don't count as like the full capacity. Like those are just extra seats. If you just want to be in the arena, be in the vibe, you can buy those seats. But Smith said, we're going to fix this arena. And when Brian Smith says things, they actually happen. So they already are renovating Delta Center. It The first phase is this off season. You could correct me if I'm wrong. And then the second phase is next off season. And even like the practice facility, immediately Ryan Smith was like, we're going to build a state of the art practice facility. This where they play right now, the oval with the speed skating ice, like that's temporary, only 1 year. And look, already they built the state of the art facility already, and they're going to have their new practice facility for the new season. They're going to revitalize downtown Salt Lake City. That all got approved. So like it's a total difference from when one owner promises things, never happens, and then Ryan Smith promises things and they happen like right away. So
Wow. That's yeah, really incredible. So I live a 15-minute drive away from the Oval. So to see what they did in that space in such little time was absolutely incredible. Like it is temporary, but it is very, very nice. The space that they made was a great facility. I got to spend some time over there, like going on walks on the oval track, and you see all the players and the coaching and the staff and everything they have there. So that was pretty cool. The practice facility is going to be about 5 miles down the road the other direction. Also looks very, very nice. And yeah, I started to catch wind of this situation actually pretty early. I had a client who knows a lobbyist here in the state. And so it was February of 2024 that he was suggesting Coyotes are moving here. It's starting next year, short time frame, but there will be NHL in 2024, 2025 in Salt Lake City. And I was thinking like that's impossible. You can't do that. Like it took like 5-6 years to get, Vegas up and running when they were getting started. And so it is cool to see everything that has been done. The Delta Center is currently being renovated. I've heard it's, going pretty well so far. The problem with the stadium is it's built for basketball. It's not necessarily built for hockey, but the owners have always tried to optimize the stadium for loudness. So for example, I went to a Metallica concert there and it was awful. Like it's like the music at Delta Center, I would contend is not that great. The acoustics are not great, but like when you're there for a game, it is loud, like a playoff environment kind of a thing. And we talked a little bit about the misownership. You hear the stories. Like I've heard the story about the bubble, Coyotes last year that they were good before the rebuild. They go into some game in the playoffs. They get into overtime. The players are gassed. They need to order like some food or get some like pizza delivered, and they couldn't even get the approval financially to get that done from ownership. And like ridiculous stories. And then you see the video of the players showing up here, the facilities they have. They walk into the locker room for the first time and there's an espresso machine, and like the players look at it like it came from outer space or something. Like, wow, this is amazing. So it is cool to see that they were treated differently, to hear the story of, Ryan Smith flying down at the end of the last game that they played in Arizona and chatting with the team, saying, what do you guys want? What do you need? How can we make this work? Let's work together. And then providing everything. And the players have been really happy. They talk to other players around the league, other people visiting, have overwhelmingly positive things to say. So that part of things has been pretty cool.
yeah, I think one of the main points, reasons, whatever you want to call it, like why I stuck with the team is no player requested a trade out. Like in fact, like 99% of the players made the move. The only player that didn't make the move that played for the Coyotes was JJ Moser, who was in a trade for Sergachev. Connor Geeky never, who was in that trade too, he never played for the Coyotes. So like the fact that no one like requested a trade out, And every time one of these players, coaches, Bill Armstrong, whenever they're interviewed, they always say, "We get whatever we need." Like, they always make a point to say that, and, obviously, it's true, but it's so great to hear that, and it really sheds light on, how ownership treated the players, especially during those Mullet Arena days, but the fans were always with the players in Arizona. Like, it was never about the fans, it was always about the just not getting the things they needed, uh, not being provided what they needed to excel. So because of ownership.
Yeah, gotcha. And obviously, Phoenix is not too far away, but I would contend around here, like our double A team is a Colorado Avalanche kind of affiliate. So a lot more people are fans of the Avalanche. Vegas is closer. They came in the league in 2017. So there's a lot of Vegas fans around here. And especially with the rebuild, I can say there's not tons of Phoenix fans around here. And so when we started to get wind that this might happen, the rumors were on Twitter. I started wanting to get to know the team. Obviously, I've worshipped hockey from the first day that I saw it as a little kid, and I've played my whole life and love it. And I didn't know much about the team that we were going to acquire. And so you start listening to podcasts, and I'll give a shout out to I believe it was the PHNX Sports podcast
They're
with
great.
Lay,
Yeah.
with Petey and Craig, and they're awesome. And like when the hype video landed here in Utah, dude, like I cried, like I got emotional, like thinking that the NHL was going to be here. And I feel a little bad about this. I didn't think as much about the other side of things, that like we're getting a franchise, but there's an entire city, an entire following that's losing a franchise. And I really got to appreciate that side of things and how terrible that would be, knowing that, like, yeah, you've got this whiteout, amazing game. It's the last game of the season. Pretty much everybody knows it's probably going to be the last game ever. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to be on the other side of that coin and to like lose a franchise?
It was tough. Like I said, they were on the road in Edmonton. This was like 3 games left in the season when it was like actually news that they're gonna move. And so like that was the night I went into the movie theater. And then after that, a lot of crying. I remember after that Edmonton on the road game, I made a video, put some like song to it, Arcade Fire song to it. All the love and support I got from my channel, like I broke down in tears right in the heart of downtown Toronto in our major train station, Union Station. Everyone's looking at me like, why is this guy crying? But yeah, it was rough. I honestly feel so sorry for the local native Arizona fans. I feel like Arizona, it's a very transplant city. Like it's paradise for different reasons compared to Utah looks like a paradise. I got to make my way there. But, a lot of people from Northeast America, like New York, Chicago, like wherever it's cold, like they go to Arizona. So they always have and those people who transplanted, like they have their historic teams, whether it be Chicago, Rangers, Boston. Like that's why whenever those teams were in town, it was the majority away fans. So I don't think it hit those people that hard, but the local native Arizona fans hit them tremendously hard. Like we're over a year later and the grieving process is still there for them, which is fine. Like no one tells you how long to grieve. I think for me, it took me a month to sort of make the decision to continue to following the team. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to give this a try. We'll do a 1 year trial and see how I feel. I think really the passion and enthusiasm in Utah like really makes this team special. It could have been a scenario where they go to a new city and like it's a dead city, like no one cares. Like that's totally not what happened. Like they went to an almost the same level, if not even more, enthusiasm and passion in Salt Lake City. But going back to losing the team, like you mentioned PHNX, like seeing Leia, Steve, Craig just break down on their podcast cry. Like it was rough. It was really rough to watch. And, some of those people are still grieving. Like they still throw shit at the wall. Like they hate Utah. They hate Rand Smith. They hate people who continue to follow team. It's a minority of people, but I just, it's misdirected anger, and that anger should be directed solely at the previous owner of the Coyotes. So it's unfortunate to see that to this day. Like I think on Twitter last night, someone put this reporter from not even a reporter, this guy from Calgary. Um, he was talking about Logan Cooley and how he's disappointed and how he's developing. He used to be a fan of the Coyotes, and he put like Utah in quotation marks, and he's like, Utah's not a real place. And it's like, come on. It's like, you don't say that stuff. Like, so it's misdirected anger, and it hit them hard. But like I said, Arizona, they're having problems with their baseball team too. Like the Diamondbacks, they got to fix their arena, and there's so much intercity politics in Arizona where the different cities don't work together. Like Scottsdale would battle against Phoenix, would battle against Tempe, and now they might lose their baseball team too. So it's really just a mess there, and they got to straighten it out over there.
Well, thank you for explaining that, and I certainly understand the people that are pissed off. Like I don't take that personally, and I would feel the same way if that got taken away from me as well. I do respect the people like you that decided to stick with it and just try. Like for us around here, being a smaller market, being disrespected, we're kind of used to that with the Jazz and that kind of thing. And that's besides Major League Soccer, our only other franchise. So yeah, it's not so much of a surprise around here, but I can tell you, I was there the first day when they did the player introductions. I was at the rookie camp. I was at the preseason game. I was at the inaugural game, and the fans locally showed up. They got smarter as the season went on. So one thing that I noticed, like the first few games, the crowd is booing every penalty that's called against us. And then as the season's going on, they start to realize, yeah, that was actually a penalty and we don't need to boo it. And, the fan traditions kind of started. You saw the veggie chants start for the goalie Karel Vejmelka as he was on the come up, and, all the wonderful things that was done for Connor Ingram here locally when, he had some mental health issues that he's still dealing with. And the woman, Jackie, who organized letters for Ingy and that response. And, all my friends at the local rinks and getting to, wear the jerseys and skate around and stuff is super fun. And since you're such an expert at, how to kind of grow a team, I just want to say that like this team is on an upward trajectory. The goal of the 2024-2025 season was to play meaningful games late in the season. And it was weird. I've never followed a team this closely. And so the business of hockey, the way a season works, I wasn't as familiar with as I thought I was. And like when you're 5 or 6 points down in February, you're thinking like, wow, we're still in it. It's so close. We're really to make up that delta is actually quite hard because all these other teams that are winning will continue winning. So anyway, we're trying to, play meaningful games late in the season this year. The expectation for next year is probably to make the playoffs. And I think people get quite excited about that prospect. But however, like to be a championship team, that's another few years. Like you have to build that over time. And Utah's in a unique place where we have a really nice draft pick, number 4, which was unexpected. We've got young prospects that are on the come up. We signed 2 amazing players from Russia that will probably see the league at some point this year. And we have assets. We've got a bunch of cash. And in the free market, there's a few players that could really make a splash. Can you talk about, with the sport of hockey, the temptation to spend all your money on a player that might be at their peak today to make a push, but how that can then screw you over in the future?
We see that all the time of GMs just willy-nilly spending money. Players know they're in a contract year. Like they're not dumb. They're like, okay, if I just do really well this year, I'll get a raise. And so that's when GMs make huge mistakes. Right before COVID, there was a free agent year where it was brutal. These contracts being handed out were terrible. I think Matt Duchene for Nashville was one of them, but really bloated contracts that handcuffs teams. That's the main issue is it handcuffs you. If you throw all your money on one player and then you kind of need to build around them, well, all your money is tied up on this one player where you can break up that money into 2 or 3 players and have a more well-rounded, deep team, which you need in the playoffs. Like right now, you look at Edmonton and Florida. Edmonton had depth in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and now it's drying up in the finals. Whereas Florida, their depth continues. Like I think I saw a stat where their 3 out of the 4 lines, their top 3 lines, have the same amount of points or goals. So you really need depth to win. Mitch Marner, being from Toronto, he's the biggest free agent right now. I made a video on Mitch Marner only to be like, should we do it? Listed out the pros and cons. He's demanding between 12 and 14 million dollars a year. it doesn't fit the mold Bill Armstrong continues to repeat of being big, strong, and hard to play against. Obviously, Mitch Marner is not that. He's a magician, visionary, offensive dynamo, but he doesn't, play, he doesn't hit hard, intimidate you, or battle physically, or impose himself physically, which Bill Armstrong wants. So it's better to use that money wisely in other places. And you don't need to spend your money. Like, just because it's free agency July 1st, you don't need to spend money. You could save it. We got Logan Cooley that's eligible to sign a contract July 1st, and then it kicks in next year. So it won't count for this upcoming season. But if you sign Marner, like I said in my video, to $13 million, and then Cooley gets the same amount of points as Marner, what do you think Cooley's going to do? He's going to be like, I want $13 million like my teammate. But if you don't sign Marner and Cooley does well, he has really no comparables on Utah. It's like Sergachev is the highest paid player, but he won 2 cups. He makes 8.5. You look at Keller and Gunther, 7.1. So Cooley, he's going to play well, and he'll probably demand $8 to $9 million without this bloated, expensive contract that if we went out to get Marner. And the Leafs, years ago when they signed a huge free agent in Tavares, $11.5 million, Marner, Matthews, Nylander all performed better, if like at the same level as Tavares, if not more. And then they all demanded that Tavares money. And that literally what caused this whole debacle of them not being able to break through in the playoffs because they had no depth and all their money was tied up to these 4 forwards. So it's a cautionary tale. And you're going to see a lot of money. Like, people are saying Sam Bennett is going to get $10 million. He's doing amazing in the playoffs right now. If Florida wins, he'll probably get the Conn Smythe, the MVP for the playoffs. But $10 million, like, his regular season stats aren't $10 million, but some team will probably just do it. They see him what he does in the playoffs, and they'll just throw the bag at him.
Yeah, it's that's exact player I was thinking of when you mentioned contract year. Look at how he's performing in a contract re-sign, probably making $1 million more a year, almost a night when he's scoring as much as he is, leading the postseason at this point in scoring. So yeah, it was frustrating. I can say around here where people are used to the NBA, they're used to the Jazz, and you draft somebody, and in the top 5, the top 10, you're going to see that player in the NBA. And like you mentioned, Jerome McGinley is kid Tej, and we drafted him number 6 this year. And people are like, okay, we saw him at rookie camp, we saw him at training camp. Where is he? Where is this kid? And it's like, no. These guys need time. They need to develop. They're 18 years old. To go into the NHL and play 82 games at the level of speed and physicality that these guys play with all the travel, like, it is something else to watch an NHL game and try to compare it to like the Utah Grizzlies, which are a AA affiliate again of the Colorado Avalanche. It is another planet. It is so fast and hard and so difficult that they need time to kind of build into that. And so again, it's a little frustrating for the fans when we draft somebody we think we're going to see them, when it's like no, you might see them in a few years. But yeah, again, I really appreciate that. It's been fun to chat kind of the hockey side of things and the business side of things. The last question I want to ask along the hockey side of things is, what do you think of Utah Mammoth?
It was my second choice for their name. The first one was Yeti. What was your top?
Great question. Yeah, I did like Yeti. It got ruled out relatively quickly with the trademark issues with Yeti Cooler Company, and they've got some ties to the league as well. I heard from pretty good sources around here that Ryan Smith, the organization, went directly to Yeti preemptively to like really try to iron things out, and it just didn't really work out. Of the 3 that were remaining, I did like Mammoth. I have to say though, Utah Hockey Club kind of grew on me a little bit, and I wouldn't have minded if it stayed Utah Hockey Club. It was a little bit awkward at first, and it's a different name for hockey, but it kind of has like a soccer vibe to it, and a lot of the fans started calling themselves clubbers, which can also kind of fit in with the Mammoth branding. But yeah, I like Mammoth. I think it's fine. To be fair, I told you I was a fan from day one, and they could have called it anything, and I would have loved it. So, yeah, second favorite, but definitely a favorite over like Outlaws or some of the others that at the end that were kind of like still in the hunt.
Yeah, so I love the name Mammoth. When Bill Armstrong got hired for the Coyotes, he wanted to be he said a cactus-like team, a prickly team. He always used that imagery to describe his future of the team. And so when they moved to Utah, he continues to say repeatedly, I want to get big. I want to be intimidating, physical. I'm like, the Mammoth fits that so great. Like, imagine just like hearing stomps in the background or in an open field and you see a huge towering mammoth over you. Like that, it's an intimidating name, and the logo's great. It looks fierce, and I think it just fits the way Bill Armstrong sees this team in the future perfectly. But what's funny is there's a cooler company called Mammoth. I tweeted this out a couple months ago
Funny.
that someone found a cooler company called Mammoth. I sent them an email. I tweeted at the cooler company. They were inactive on Twitter for like years. Never heard anything back, but it's funny.
That's really funny. And asking people around here what they think of it. All the hockey fans love it. It's so funny. The people that have told me that they didn't like it, or they said the Mammoth has nothing to do with Utah, which isn't true. We've had lots of history of mammoths in the state, but they'll say like, "Oh, Mammoth doesn't have anything to do with Utah," and they're Jazz fans. And you ask them like, "Okay, what about Jazz? What does Jazz have to do with Salt Lake City? What does Jazz have to do with Utah?" And they're like, I don't know. Yeah, we got them from New Orleans. That's why they're called the Jazz. Like it has a lot to do with that city and not ours. People get used to the names. Like it's like LA Lakers. Why are they called the Lakers? That has nothing to do with LA. It's because they came from Minnesota. Like these franchises move around and acquire names and people get used to them. So yeah, anyway, again, I really appreciate your insight there. I love watching your videos. I recommend anybody go to learn about that. You do a great job presenting everything in a really clear way. And I think it's fun to learn about the kind of ins and outs and backstory of different sports, and especially one around here that is quite beloved by me and my community. So that's fantastic. Julian, I want to talk to you also about your history with kind of health and fitness. As you and I were kind of going back and forth and exchanging emails, you had mentioned that you'd kind of gone through, I don't know if a health transformation is the right way to describe it. I actually don't know too many details about it, but can you tell us a little bit about whatever journey you've gone through as far as your own health and fitness in your life?
Yeah, I would say a health awakening or just being aware of health. I don't think I drank water all throughout high school. Like I try to remember high school. I'm like, I didn't bring a water bottle to school. I never bought water at school. When was I drinking water? Then I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I drank pop and iced tea like 3 or 4 times a day. So yeah, I think when I graduated university, like once I was done school, I immediately started going to the gym 5 days a week. I had nothing else to do. And then in 2016, when I turned 24, just something in the back of my mind was like pushing me to just be more independent. Like you should move out, you should live on your own, you should start cooking for yourself. Like no one told me, it was just inside of me. And so, I went to my family. I'm like, I'm gonna start eating myself. I'll eat my own meals and figure it out. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't like YouTube was yeah, obviously YouTube was present during that time, but I wasn't big into YouTube around then, like late 2015, early 2016. My channel started mid 2016 or the October of 2016. But so I would go to the gym, I would eat healthy the way I thought healthy was, like eating beet salad, like and so after work, I would go to the gym, like I have no energy. Like I was eating chicken and rice, like I said, the beet salad, eating tuna and cucumbers, but I had no energy at the gym. I'm like what's going on here? Like this shouldn't be the way it is. Like I feel like so low energy at the gym. And then through Googling my issues, I found keto and like Joe Rogan had podcasts about keto. Dr. Rhonda Patrick was probably my first ever contact into keto. So I followed her. I still follow her. And, you know, just the idea of like fat is healthy. You got to use it the right way, and that's going to give you energy. So I cut out the rice. I didn't do the beet salad anymore. Uh, I increased the protein. I still incorporate vegetables, but I wasn't scared of fats. In 2016, I started bulletproof coffees every morning, and I still do it to this day. So that's what 9 years straight, a bulletproof coffee, which is coconut oil coffee. I put my protein powder in my coffee, which people really don't do, but it helps me. It's been working for 9 years, and you have the energy now. I have energy all throughout the day. It's like just a consistent level of energy the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. So just an awakening of being more independent, looking at information out there, and trying different foods and diets out and seeing what worked for me. And I loved protein, so it was an easier transition. And I'm not full keto anymore. It's about 90%. I went about, I would say, 2 to 3 years of, or four of like really keto. And then, once you start dating people, once you start going out, it's like, I never want to be that guy of like, I'm on a diet. Like, I like to enjoy life. So I only keep Friday nights and Saturdays are my eat like a normal person day. So whatever people are eating, I'll just eat that. And then Sunday back on the train into Friday night on
Wow.
keto. So yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, I was unaware of all of that. The bulletproof coffee, that's about when I started as well, maybe 2014 or 15, when I first heard of Dave Asprey, and somebody mentioned it, and thinking like I'm going to put just a little bit of butter and MCT oil, and now I do salt in my coffee as well.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
same. Salt,
Dude,
like people need to wake up to salt in the coffee. Like it's gonna hit soon. I expected it to hit the mainstream a year or two ago, but it'll take some time. But man, like it's so good.
it's so good. It sounds weird if it's the first time you've heard about it for sure. But when you think about like, I knew a lot of people growing up would eat like grapefruits and put sugar on grapefruit. It's like, no, 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 you got to put salt on grapefruit. It tastes so much better and cuts that bitterness. And yeah, I just think that energy boost that you get from, and I don't know how much you do. I'd maybe do like 20 to 24 ounces of the stuff in a day. It's really all I need. But the caffeine is one thing that gives you kind of that like, little spike of energy. But for me, if I just have black coffee, I feel really jittery. And I
Yeah.
feel like with the MCT oil that is readily turned to ketones by your liver, the butter that's in there, the fat serving, and the salt, it just gives you like, I describe it as like turning on a light switch. You're not jittery. You're just like on. It takes 5-10 minutes of you start drinking it. Your brain is working well. You have energy, like you said, like all day. If you want to skip meals or try intermittent fasting, that's pretty easy as well. But I'm with you, man. I know a lot of pure carnivores who don't do the coffee and say coffee affects them. But I still do the coffee, and I think it's a net positive for sure when I do it. So it's something I noticed.
You're a keto and carnivore coach. Are you on carnivore currently?
So I've been on a largely carnivore diet for over 6 years. Yeah, I'm trained as a nutrition coach, and so I can coach anybody on anything. But I got certified. It was the first productive thing after getting unemployed during the 2020 pandemic that I did was I got certified with Dr. Sean Baker's company at the time, which is
Oh,
called MeatRx.
name
And so
drop, name
yeah,
dropping there.
he's a great dude. I've gotten to meet him a few times in person at different conferences, and he's just the nicest guy. And he's every bit as jacked as he looks. Same with like Dr. Chafee and all those guys in that world. But yeah, like I'm more helping people with the carnivore diet. And the way I describe it is like kind of the way you present your information. You're not saying that like Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth is the only best team in hockey, and it's anybody who likes the Leafs or any other franchise sucks. You're just that's what you do. You cover Utah hockey, and people who want to know about Utah hockey come to you. And like I kind of think of myself as the same. Like I don't tell vegans they're stupid, but I mostly work with people who are wanting to do some kind of a carnivore diet. But I do have to say as well, the way I define carnivore is the way a hyper carnivore is defined in nature, and that is that an animal is eating at least 75% of their calories from animal products. So I don't love when people squabble about the minutia in a carnivore diet. You know what I mean? Like if you eat an avocado, are you not a carnivore? Coffee, that doesn't come from animals. I drink coffee and MCT oil, which comes from coconuts. Like I don't like to get too caught up in that. I just think of carnivores like you are largely animal based, getting most of your calories from animals, and then whatever else people want to include is probably pretty close. And it sounds like by that definition, you'd be adjacent to, if not in that category, correct?
Yeah, I was gonna say that maybe I'm a carnivore, but like my snack is like a walnuts and blueberries, like 2 hours after my coffee. So I know carnivores do not eat nuts and fruits, so that's a no-no. But, like whatever works for you works. Like you could try to go into these diets and then modify it around to what makes you feel good. Like there's some vegans who are like really good vegans. Then there's some vegans who eat Oreos. It's like you're missing the point there. So whatever you could try something, and if it works for you, you can modify it around your lifestyle. All it is that you feel good. Like there's so many, like hockey, there's all these other NHL teams, we're all in this together. And so like all these diets, it's like we're all in it together just to feel better and to live longer, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And that's what makes all of this so frustrating as a nutrition coach. And it's the reason why, like, I don't give people specific recommendations as much as I, make suggestions or ask questions and have the person come up with their own answers. Because at the end of the day, like, I can't feed somebody because somebody's going to eat whatever they want to eat. And yeah, when all of our collective goals, I would argue, is exactly what you said. We all want to be feeling better. We have so much more in common. We carnivores have way more in common with vegans than people would initially think, and we there's not one way to eat, and even the way somebody's eating today may not even work next week or next month or next year, and you always need to be kind of assessing that kind of a thing. So I think that's a really good point. And I do have to ask you, like, one of the things that I noticed for myself is if I go off, we're human. I'm not always perfect. When I go off hard, and it sucks. And it takes me a few days to kind of get back into things. And I will eat more of a thing that I know I shouldn't be eating than I really want to. Like a few years ago, the last pie I ever had, excuse me, I pretty much ate the entire pie. Like the whole thing. I just wanted a piece or two and I ate the whole thing. Last time I had pizza a few months ago, I wanted a slice or two. I ate six. Like I leveled this pizza. You seem to be able to do what you want to do kind of during the week and step off a little bit for the weekend. Would you call yourself kind of a moderator? Is it easy for you to kind of go off and then just go right back on to what you want to be doing to make you feel good?
Yeah, like 100%. I feel like I have the discipline. Like my wife always says, you're so disciplined. Like I know when to cut it off. But when I do go off, it's like you said, or go hard, like I love burgers. I'll never stop eating burgers. But when I know and I set a date, like I'm gonna have two burgers on this day, it's like I will mitigate to fit that. I will skip the bulletproof coffee in the morning to lower calories. I'll intermittent fast. I skip lunch, and then it doesn't seem so bad if you I try to vision my meals day to day. So like if I put all my meals on a table and say I ate this today, so if I only see two burgers and black coffee, like yeah, it seems fine. Like, but if I just ate the two burgers with everything else, like my bulletproof coffee, my lunch, my snacks, it's like, okay, now that's too much. So I try to mitigate because like I'm human, we're all human. Like I don't say I'm 100% keto. It's like I love food, I love pizza, I love burgers, but I just mitigate the damage and I'll work even extra harder at the gym, like 15 more minutes. Right before I have those burgers, I'll add 15 more minutes. I'll make sure to go to the gym before. So I just try to mitigate, and then it's easier for me to just jump back on that discipline wagon, but I know for sure it's harder for other people. So it could be just an innate thing I have about just being disciplined, but some
Yeah,
people might
got
not
it.
have that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are drawn to carnivore because they do find they have that addictive kind of personality. I certainly have learned that a little bit about myself that I'm maybe more on that scale than not, and like to think that like 100% for a lot of people might be easier than 80 or 90%, but also to acknowledge there's people like you that yeah, like thinking about it in that way. Especially if the punishment isn't so high. Like if you eat burgers like mixed foods. Like I know people who have to do strict carnivore because they have mental disorders, or they bipolar, or they have gut issues, or skin issues. And so, like the punishment for them going off means symptoms are coming back, or their mental clarity is way worse. I certainly notice, like for me, my anxiety gets a lot worse, or my sleep sucks. And it sounds like you don't experience that nearly as much as other people. Is that a fair way to say it?
I do if that going off or going hard increases in days. Like if I'm on vacation, like on vacation, it's all the rules are off. Like I'm going to a cottage next week. Like I think Americans call it a cabin. Like obviously I'm not going to be keto during then. So whenever I the those cheat meals extend to one meal to 2, 3, 4 days, like I get skin flare ups. I feel my anxiety coming on stronger, and so like it signals to me like got to get back to my baseline. And so, and then when I do, it's like the skin flare ups go away, anxiety disappears, sleep is better, feel better. And so I go through those. I'm not this perfect model citizen, but so I just want to point that out. Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you for explaining that. And you mentioned something that I absolutely love as a strategy as well. And I do think it affords so much more flexibility for people. And that is intermittent fasting, choosing to skip certain meals. For a lot of people, when they're eating a high carbohydrate, high sugar diet, I certainly noticed this with myself. Like growing up religious, we had a 24-hour fast that we would have to do every single month. And remembering when I was eating a low fat, high carbohydrate diet, dude, that day was awful. The worst. I hated it. I'd spend the next 29 days thinking of the one day that I'd have to do it again. And it just was terrible. And now, like, you start changing your diet, you're somewhere in the realm of keto. You're using fat as fuel, like you said, whatever that looks like for you. If you're able to go a certain amount of time, whether that's 16 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, where you're just like not that hungry, you can fast and you're saving time, you're saving money. I think it just affords you so much more flexibility when you do eat. And I think that kind of mindset of like, okay, I'm going to go off my plan later. Some of these things might be higher energy, more carbohydrates, more calories, whatever that may be. That's different than the normal plan. But if you have the ability to fast and you incorporate that, I just think it opens up so many more possibilities for you to feel really good when you do that.
Yeah, the dangerous thing is like you fast, saying you're gonna have a meal, let's say at 7 p.m., and then you break that fast around noon or 1 p.m., and then you still have that meal at 7, and then you kind of just like ruined what your plan for that day. So
Yeah.
that's the hard part.
Yeah, totally. Do you notice a difference in the way your hunger feels? Like remembering before you were doing like a higher fat diet when hunger was a lot more like hanger, a lot more like spiky or sharp or really difficult to get through versus what hanger is like when you're kind of in this realm of like a higher fat, lower carbohydrate type of a eating way?
When I'm in keto, like you there's times where you don't feel hungry, but then you get the hangerness, and then you come off a bit crass, and people around you are like what's going have you eaten? Like you seem angry or so you gotta like be so in tune, like I need to eat, remember to eat, because when you're on keto, you won't feel the hunger at times. Whereas before keto, when I was just eating normally with the rice and the salad, like I would feel hunger all the time. And that was bad. And that led to like cheating way more often than on keto, where it's more manageable. So I just got to be aware to eat. And, when I do get a bit intense, be like, have I eaten? No, I should eat and then come back to this conversation.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. And for the people that are listening and not watching, Julian is in great shape. You mentioned going to the gym earlier. You mentioned going 5 days a week. I'm not sure what your lifting patterns are today, but with everything we mentioned in the introduction, dude, you have a job. You got married. You've got a passion project. You've got a lot of busy things. Tell us what your kind of fitness plan is and how that has evolved over time. Is it something where you have to be a little bit more tactical or maybe not contribute as much time to the gym as you used to? Like, how has your thinking evolved around like the workout portion and the fitness side of things?
Yeah, the goal every week is always 5 days. Obviously, life happens, so it might be four. Like if it rarely goes to three, and rarely unless I'm on vacation, obviously. But yeah, it's five, sometimes four if there's appointments or something. In the gym, it's all about weights. I don't do cardio. I play hockey Sunday nights in the winter and fall. So no, not during the summer. So that's where I get my cardio. I'm not advocating that you don't do cardio. Like just for me in the gym, it's all about lifting heavy. People say like you lose weight more when you just lift heavy. So for me, it's like I'll do one huge compound lift a day. So One day it's a chest dumbbell press, and then I could do whatever I want after that. Just as long as in that day I do that one strong lift. And I lift pretty heavy, I think, for my stature. I think people will be surprised of how much I lift. But recently, like 3 months ago, I don't know if I tore I still don't know what happened. But during hockey, I fell on my armpit and it dislocated, but then it reattached itself immediately. And so I was like, what happened there? And now, like, for 3 months, I like my shoulder presses have decreased, my chest presses have decreased. I can't get into a squat position, like this arm doesn't bend. So obviously I need to go to physiotherapy and get that out. But yeah, it's usually lifting heavy 5 days a week. And if I know I'm gonna go off on a cheat meal, I'll extend it by 10 to 15 minutes. But for me, like 45 minutes is all you need. Like I don't talk to anybody, just you go to work, like it like you're not wasting time. It's like 30-minute 30-second rest between sets. And I feel like 45 minutes lifting heavy should be sufficient if you just do it 4 to 5 times a day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's actually quite a lot for sure. And then, yeah, we talk about this a lot on the show, but like a compound lift, you do want to do those kind of more early in the workout after you're properly warmed up and whatever, because you're using the most energy, the most combination of muscles, especially the biggest muscles that are all central to the body. So, am I correct in assuming those are going to be a chest press, a row, a shoulder press, like you mentioned, maybe like a pull down, a deadlift, a squat, those kinds of things? Are those the ones that you kind of include?
Yeah, so the five are chest press, shoulder press, deadlift, squat, and then probably one more I'm missing. But if not, then the fifth day is like I'll stretch a bit, stretch out my hips. I do a lot of knees over toes. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, yeah.
So I use that to like strengthen my knee mobility. So I think that's my fifth day. Like one of those days is work on my knees because that helps tremendously in hockey. I
Yeah.
found like having loose hips and your knees could bend any which way they want without hurting. It really helps when you're skating.
Yeah, the ankle mobility is huge too. Like I recently just got a new set of skates and I kind of learned like I was not getting into my edges nearly enough. I was like way on top of my skates without really having that like ankle mobility and egging your edge into the ground. And so that's definitely been a game changer for me as well. Yeah, I would wonder if there was some kind of like a pulling movement in the upper body that you were doing, like again, a row or a pull down or a lat pull or something along those lines. But other than that, that sounds like really well put together, well benefited. And dude, it's interesting. You mentioned the cardio, and it's funny, like when you dig into the research and how we even started calling things cardio. It's not all it's cracked up to be. And I don't get too upset if somebody says they're not doing any cardio. My opinion has changed greatly about that over the years. And I'm with you. I think lifting heavy is the very best thing that you can do. And if somebody tells me that like they're concerned about, for example, their cardiovascular system, their heart health, because they're not jogging 45 minutes a day for several days a week. I think the research on that actually being beneficial is quite scant. And I think lifting weights has way more benefit than people talk about with things like, quote unquote, cardiovascular health. So I personally would not get worked up one bit at all about you not doing quote unquote cardio. I wouldn't tell you to go out and do that today.
I agree, but I do sauna. So like people say like, oh, your heart rate rises, so that could be like a heart exercise. Maybe when you're in the sauna, like I don't know too much about the science on that. I just know it feels great. And walking, like me and my wife walk pretty much every day, so I don't call walking cardio. You shouldn't, but at least it's some sort of movement, I guess.
Yeah. Well, no, you've got the hockey, which gives you that high end interval. Like I said, I think lifting heavy strengthens the heart way more than people talk about. Walking, I will contend with anybody that, besides playing ice hockey, is one of the very best exercises that you can do is just getting out for walks. I think is the most beneficial thing that you can do, especially outside, especially in minimalist footwear if you can. If you can be barefoot, even better. Like with your wife as a social thing, like all of those things are super important. So I would argue that those are way better You mentioned the sauna. Before this episode drops, we've got an episode that we did with an expert in cold exposure and sauna therapies, and to hear how beneficial a sauna is for exactly those reasons that you said. Like you said, maybe not knowing all the science, but you know that, yeah, it is really, really good for you. And we got a sauna a few years ago. I'm in it every single night before bed, and it is a game changer. I absolutely love it. How often are you doing your sauna?
Well, I yeah, I would do it after every gym session, but you need 3 to 6 months off the sauna when you're trying to do something. So I haven't been in the sauna since November. So
Gotcha.
hopefully that changes once that project's completed.
Yeah, oh, I love that. That's awesome. Very cool. Anything else you want to discuss as far as health and fitness? Anything that you found along the lines of, you know, like we mentioned the sauna? Like, is there anything else that you have found that's a lifestyle factor that, besides the workouts and the eating and sauna, that you felt to be very beneficial for you to stay healthy?
I think recently Andrew Huberman has helped a lot. Do you know of him? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so delaying the coffee an hour when you wake up, having salt water right when you wake up, hydrating the body, getting in sunlight in the morning, dimming lights an hour before bed. Even Matt Walker, he's a sleep scientist. Like I read his book all about sleep. Like I'm a master sleeper. Like I take pride in that. So I think good sleep is like probably one of the best things you can do. But a lot of recently, the past 2 years, a lot of Andrew Huberman protocols just really make me feel better. And it's good. It's easier to incorporate in my current lifestyle.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you familiar with Jason Yee? He does Train 2.0, does a lot of YouTube content as well.
Maybe. Does he work with goal guys or am I thinking of someone else?
Oh, that might be somebody else. His system is called Train 2.0, and it's a lot of like what is it? The downhill skating system, and he does a lot of like videos that are quite helpful. We just recently hosted him. He's somebody I've learned a lot from as far as like hockey goes and getting techniques down and making sure my positioning is good and how to get my ankle angles and Y angles and all that stuff a lot better. But we were talking about Huberman protocols as well recently on the show, and yeah, just kind of taking in some of that advice and incorporating it to see what works. Like you said, it's similar to nutrition where you might really jive with something, or you might need to adapt something for your own uses. You mentioned sleep, you mentioned darkness. I just have to quickly ask, like, does getting out in daytime sun seem to make a difference for you? Like that contrast of light, like Matthew Walker kind of talks about this as well, that like you want dark evenings, but you also want really light days. Have you found that getting, sunlight or bright lights during the day helps you?
Yeah, I have a sun lamp. So right when I wake up and I work from home. That should probably be ending soon. Turn on that lamp, turn on the lights, brightness until about 8 p.m. and then you start to dim. And then usually right before bed, it should be like pretty much darkness. And
Cool.
it's easier to get into that sleep mode. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, I'll cut you loose so you can get back to work. Can I just ask you quickly? You are talking to an audience of people that are really fired up about diet and nutrition, and they want to share their story. For somebody who's been very consistent on YouTube, again, you can make this very quick. I know you need to get back to it, but what advice would you have for somebody that wants to share a message and get it out there? You've been doing this for a long time and have kept your passion project going for a while. What advice would you have for somebody that wants to share a message?
Gotta be consistent. Like if they're trying to start like content, like is what you're trying
Yeah,
to say.
yeah,
You got to be consistent and you got to stick with it for over a year for sure. The first year will be terrible. Like it'll be unless you like hit it big viral, but you got to stick with it, you got to give it a long time. You have to be consistent. You can't get discouraged. Like I don't even look at view numbers anymore. Like I have to stop. I stop looking at numbers. I'll just post a video and reply to comments and then move on to the next video. Like you it could really discourage you. There's no rhyme or reason to the YouTube algorithm. Some videos hit, some don't. And so it's consistency. Don't get discouraged and it's about managing anxiety. Like it's very anxious to put yourself out there. Like I feel it. I don't feel it. I only feel it a lot now when I do interviews. So my two interviews, incredibly anxious. This one, pretty anxious in the beginning. But my normal videos, like it's pretty routine now, so I don't get that anxiousness. But I know in the beginning, like to put yourself out there, it's hard, and you just got to manage that. And if you are putting yourself out there, you're already above 95% of the
Uh,
population. So stick to it.
Excellent. Thank you. That's excellent advice. Julian, thank you for this conversation. This has been fantastic. It's been great to get to know you a little bit more. And I already feel like I knew you from watching so much of your content, but I really appreciate you taking the time to be on our show today and share your wisdom with us. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
I'm just on YouTube and Twitter. That's it. I try to keep it simple. So YouTube, 99.6, the Howl. Twitter's the same, just there's no point. It's just 996, the Howl. I don't do anything else. Like even like those two social medias are enough for me. So you can
That's
find me there.
plenty. Yeah, that's plenty. Awesome. We'll link that up in the show notes. And like I said, we're so grateful for you and coming on our show today, not only to talk about your health and fitness journey, but to talk about our beloved hockey team. And cheers to the Mammoth. Hope they do well this year. And anyway, thank you so very much for appearing on our show today. We really, really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this was great. This was awesome. Really
Uh,
enjoyed my time.
I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was an honor. And this has
No
been another
problem.
episode of Boundless Body Radio.